right, as promised, we are joined by the general manager of the Los Angeles Rams, Les Snead, joining us here at UCI. Les, thanks for checking in. Appreciate it.
How's it going?
Fantastic. How's it going for you? What's it like coming out here for the first time as defending Super Bowl champions and carrying that around with you?
It's something about when you get on the grass, you get the pads on. It's not OTAs. Take winning a Super Bowl out of it. There's just something about the first week of training camp.
Is this what it feels like when the season has started? Obviously, you're doing things year round, but when does it feel like, okay, here we go, the season has started?
I think it's first day of pads. Maybe when the fans get here. We had some acclimation practices before that were, a little stale out here, a little boring. Kind of the walkthrough type stuff. Yeah. I think it's probably like if we compared it to baseball, this would be spring training, right?
Do you ever get a chance to just take a deep breath and just inhale everything or exhale everything that's happened last year in terms of the way that you built the team, you win the Super Bowl, and it's like, and then you got to do it all over again, right?
It's you definitely take some time. You probably think about winning the Super Bowl every day. Mm-hmm. I probably intentionally tried to somewhat try to get bored, get fresh. So probably haven't really sat down and, let's call it, journaled, reflected, and said, okay, moments that if the ball would have bounced this way, or if we'd have gone left instead of right. There's so many moments that accumulate to winning a world championship that you think, oh, what if one of those had gone the other way?
Les, what's that like? It's the profession that you've chosen, where the way that the ball, if it goes left, we win. If it goes right, we don't. And you can put all the right pieces in place. You can sign all the right guys. You can draft all the right guys, and just know that. Hey, look, it may not. It just did, but it may not the next time.
Well, I think this is the neat thing about the NFL, probably what makes it exciting. There is an element of randomness to it from a game.
Sure.
But we can probably somewhat build a good to very good, right, solid team and know that at the end of the day we're going to accumulate wins. We're going to have a chance to contend. But you're exactly right. When you get to let's call it the final 8 teams alive, at that moment it's not a 7-game series like maybe baseball or basketball. It's one game, and all of a sudden,
good call,
that oval ball
call. Yeah,
but I do think you can probably build something to know you have a chance, barring injury, things like that. But what you probably can't do is build something guarantee that you're gonna be the one with the confetti coming down at the end.
The depth that you've built on this team, especially through the draft, and we see a lot of it during training camp. Everybody's talking about, well, the Rams are sort of the first team that they don't play their starters. But how do you look and how do you evaluate throughout the training camp, throughout the preseason, on guys who you say they may have a lesser role now, but by the end of the season they could be a starter, if not one of our key productions?
Right. I think last year's Super Bowl, Bryson Hopkins is the perfect example. He caught more balls in the Super Bowl than he dressed. And he didn't dress any during the playoffs. What he did, though, that you talk about, we always talk about dominating your role.
Right.
And I know Sean, I know our defense asked Bryson to be the best Zach Ertz he could be the week we played Arizona. Be the best Gronk he could be the week we played Tampa Bay. Be the best Kittle he could be the week we played San Fran. And same with Cincinnati. End of the day, right, Higbee's down. We're down to one tight end. Is Hop going to dress or is he not? Is it going to be Hop, second tight end? Is it going to be another special teams player? We dress Hop. Sean felt more comfortable having that insurance. And guess what? At the end of the day, because of what he did during those weeks, Sean had the confidence, right, when Kendall Blanton went down and we were down to no tight ends.
No tight ends.
Let's put Hop in the game and made a key block on the 4th and 1 reverse to Cooper Kupp and I think 4 catches in the game. That's it starts in training camp.
That's another one of those decisions that you make if you decide, okay, we don't need to dress them. Who knows how it goes, right? It's just one of those decisions that you maybe it has nothing to do with anything, or maybe it's the most important.
Oh yeah, you know what?
Entire game.
Your special team coaches, right? They have their mission, and they would have rather had a linebacker or safety. But in that game, you lose OBJ. You're already down Robert Woods. You lose Kendall Blanton. You're already down Higbee. That special teams linebacker, on paper going into it, may have been a key, but because of the attrition during the game,
Les, you came on the other show I do, the Travis and Sliwa show, right after you won the championship, and you said something that I've quoted you on our show a lot of times, talking about knowing where you are in your window, that when you decide whether how to approach the draft, how to approach free agency, how to sign your own players, how do you determine how big that window is and how aggressively you try to slide through it?
That's a good question on can you really determine how long is it? I think once you break through, and it probably started Sean's first year. What we did find out going through that first year, wow, we have a chance to be a really good offense. We've got a difference-making head coach, offensive play caller. So let's do things right to take advantage of that, attack that opportunity, and you once you go to your first Super Bowl, it's there is an element now of belief that you can actually get through the gauntlet of the playoffs and get there. So I think in those moments, that's what we say, hey, attack that opportunity to be successful. How long? That's common sense here, right? How long is Matthew Stafford in his prime? How long is Sean McVay in his prime? I think those are – you can get to Aaron Donalds and things like that, but that's why what we do know is those guys are in their prime. So – this particular team, this makeup with those key players, we only have so many years, but we want to make the most of it.
I say the one thing that since the return to Los Angeles, the only kind of holdup we've ever had is really the Aaron Donald contract. Because when it comes to contracts, you guys seem to you open up the wallet, but you get it done the right way, and it's never become an issue. But at some point, everyone wants to know, like, how or where do you guys keep finding all of this cap space or this money to sign so many veterans to these big contracts?
It's funny. If we were watching, Sean took Aaron Donald out of the practice at the end there because he was just wrecking it. And I remember those first 2 years, Aaron Donald holding out, telling Sean, I promise you're glad he's not here.
Right.
The contract's going to figure itself out. You're just glad he's not here during your first years as a coach because no one's going to feel like they're any good when he's there. So that's pretty – but you mentioned it earlier. The way we're able to do what we do is we've got to draft well. Right. And a lot of our Robins to our Batmans, right, key contributors, right, and they may not open the season as a contributor. They may evolve there. A lot of those players are, in their rookie contracts. So I think leading up to the Super Bowl, I think a lot of people wrote about how we're one of the more homegrown teams in the NFL. So that's the model, right? Whoever our Batmans are, our key pillars, and they get paid well, right? We're definitely relying on, our draftees, those players in those rookie contracts to.
Rams General Manager Les Snead joining us here at Rams training camp, and kind of piggybacking on that a little bit, and. It bothers me a little, he did when the F them pick strategy that everybody's very familiar with. Obviously, that's your signature. You got the coffee cup, the whole thing, but it's not the F them. It's the I need to hit on a bunch of guys in the second half of it. It's not necessarily in the first half. Is this something when you got into this, like I am going to zig when everyone else zags? Where first round draft picks are so important to so many different people. It's the commodity that they're constantly trying to hold on to, and you're like, no, I'm going to give those away. I'm going to go get really good NFL players to put on the field right now.
Yeah, I don't think we wake up every day and say, let's just be different. I think what we do wake up every day is going, okay, how can we somehow maybe think differently, untraditionally, less traditional, innovatively to get an edge. It's hard to get an edge in a 32-team league. So if you really, really think you have a chance to be one of 32, right, you just come in and say, what can we do today to get an edge? And what we did sit down and determine intentionally is, okay, there's not just one way to use these draft picks. There's other ways to use these draft picks. And yes, we may trade for Matthew Stafford's, Jalen Ramsey's, but there's a lot of times where we also trade back so that we can collect more picks and at the end of the day still have a solid draft.
You guys, early in free agency, ran after Allen Robinson. What did you see from him in his time with Chicago and in the league that he will be a great asset to this football team?
Well, it's a little bit what OBJ brought to us. And unfortunately, right, that he's not going to be able to start the season. But there is an element of with him and Matthew. Matthew was very familiar with him, playing him twice a year.
Right.
We had played him a good bit over the last few years during his prime. But he is one of those players, right, where you can put in some isolated situations. And you know what, Mom, Dad, God just made him a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger, and maybe a little bit more agile than some people. So in those one-on-one ISO situations, non-schemed, hey, let's just go make a play. And Matthew's one of those players, one of those cues that can notice that, can realize that, and feel comfortable trying to bring that to fruition.
Rams GM Les Snead joining us. How do you replace Andrew Whitworth, not necessarily as a left tackle, but just the presence that he was inside your organization?
Well, I think you're right. There's two variables there. Joe Noteboom's going to replace the left tackle, the guy that's going to be charged to pass protect and run block. Now, I think you're not going to bring in another Andrew Whitworth in terms of what he brings intangibly. So I think what we try to do is what did he actually – Andrew's Andrew, and what were the results of him being Andrew? And then, okay, how do we somehow maybe inspire other players to provide something to get those same results, but maybe in a different way?
What did you learn about Matthew Stafford after winning the Super Bowl and just the way that he performed, especially in the playoffs?
It was pretty number one for, let's call it a franchise QB and someone who's made a lot of money. He is just a down to earth, very humble, wants to get to know a lot of people. Sometimes that's rare. The interesting thing, he does have that switch that he flips, and so we traded for him. You could watch him, you could read about him, all those comebacks, right? And there's a lot of them. But when you're living those with him, and the Super Bowl is one of them, right, you realize okay, that's on an Excel spreadsheet. He's number one in fourth quarter comebacks, whatever. That's one thing. But to be there in that fourth quarter and to feel the weight of whether we make the comeback or not, that's when you go.
How do you quantify that? How when you're evaluating players and just what you were talking about?
You can't measure it, but I know this. You can feel it. And we can put a number on it, but if he's a 10 out of 10 or 100 out of 100, whatever your scale is.
Can you scout it? Can you see it in college? Can you see it in a guy he's got that thing that you're talking about? Or do you have to wait until it's, you're down by 4 points with 2 minutes to go?
Harder. It's a lot harder in college because – there's less stressful situations. Things aren't as competitive. Sometimes you out-talent people. And now there's maybe some moments in college where – and let's just talk quarterback in particular. There's maybe moments during a season, where there's there's 1 2-minute drive where the conference championship's on the line. But there's not many of those. A lot of times quarterbacks are really good in college and they got a lot of talent and they put up a lot of stats. So and even with Matthew coming here, you can watch those games – on film, but that's in a quiet room, but you just can't feel the actual weight, the magnitude of the moment. So, go ahead.
Yeah, I was impressed last year in terms of, look, we knew Cam Akers was down with an injury, and yet everyone's saying, who are the Rams going to pick up at running back? And you said, no, we're fine. We're going to be patient. And then you find a Sony Michel right before the season, and what he was able to do for you guys and calm that room down and played well throughout. Now you have Cam Akers back. You have Darrell Henderson. You drafted Kyron Williams. How deep is this group now at running back? Still youthful, but very deep.
It's definitely deep, and especially if all three, counting Kyron, can stay healthy. Obviously, Kyron's out right now, and the objective is to have him for week one and not week one of the preseason. But that's a very, very solid group, and actually a neat. Let's call it. They bring a little bit of diversity to how they actually get yards or press defenses. So that's going to be interesting, and that's definitely what we wanted, some versatility there, so that there is some different flavors in the game when we do run the ball.
That's Rams general manager Les Snead.
I can't say this. Do miss Sony Michel already. That's just. There's something about that guy. We wouldn't be champions if he wouldn't.
I was just going to ask you that. I was just going to say, I don't know if you guys closed the whole thing off if he wasn't there to do everything he did leading up to that last moment. He was terrific.
That if you want to call it December football, and he was used to that. I mean, that stretch of December where we shortened the game a little bit. Sean likes to call it small ball, right? Don't spread it out. Bring in, go double, even 3 tight ends sometimes. And you know what? Let's go north and south. And you need that in December.
Absolutely.
January.
You got to play outside somewhere at some point along the line. Just somewhere up north in the middle, maybe. Who knows? We'll see what it is. Rams general manager Les Snead joining us here at Camp Les. Thanks so much for stopping by.
Hey, thanks for having me.
You got it. All right. Today's training camp show is powered by Buffalo Wild Wings and the best happy hour in SoCal. Tons of awesome $3 to $6 food and drinks weekdays from 3 to 6. Don't miss